What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, tell a friend, hit the subscribe button. Everybody else, welcome back if you've been here before. We're going to talk today about some things that you must have if you are in the maximum security prison system, things that you should keep with you, things that are a necessity. Excuse me. Some of the things may be against the rules for you to have, other things you're entitled to have, but they are important for your comfort, for your security, and just to do better time if you're going to do time. Not that I want you to do time. I suggest that you stay out of the prison system. It is one of the most miserable places ever. If you've never been here before, I served 17 years straight in the maximum security prison system. I was also in the medium security prison system. So I know what it takes to make things a little more comfortable in there. So let's get right into it about things that you need to have, things that are a necessity when you're doing prison time. One of them is a survival bag. And what I mean by a survival bag is a bag that you should keep under your bed and you don't touch it, And what you should keep in this bag is, and I'll tell you why you should keep it. You should keep some, if you're a coffee drinker, keep some coffee in there. When you go to commissary and you get a jug of coffee, buy 2 jugs of coffee. Put one of them in the survival bag. Put some soups in a bunch of soups. They call them crackhead soups, the ramen noodle soups. They sell them for like 40 cents a piece in the commissary. Get 10 of those, get 15 of those, different flavors. Throw them in the survival bag next to the coffee inside of a net bag. Get get some snacks, put some snacks in there, some chips and some things that won't go bad sitting around a long time. And you get a bunch of, you don't want to get like chocolate because chocolate can go hard, it could go stale, but get yourself a bunch of snacks from the commissary, put it in the bag with the coffee, put it in the bag with the soups, get some cans of tuna fish. Cans of tuna fish are always good. They'll last a long time. They sell cans of chicken, bags of tuna, bags of chicken in the commissary. Get yourself 5, 10 bags of that, throw it in there, and get some different types of food that'll last a long time. A couple of boxes of rice, throw some rice in there, things like that. Peanut butter and jelly, you got to have peanut butter and jelly in there. That's very important, and some rollies. Some loose tobacco. They sell rollies in the cigarettes. Some place sells something called Roll Rich. Other places sell Top. Whatever it may be. They're a few dollars. They're cheaper than the regular cigarettes in the commissary. Get yourself 5 bags. So now you got a bag. You got the bag filled with coffee, with soups, with snacks, with tuna, with peanut butter and jelly, with cigarettes, and you take all that and you throw it under your bed in the net bag. And the reason you have that is for a couple of reasons. One, the prison can go on lockdown anytime. You never know when the prison's going to go on lockdown. There could be a stabbing, a few stabbings, and they decide, let's lock the prison down for 3 days. Let's lock the prison down for 5 days. And so now what happens is you're stuck in your cell 24 hours a day during the lockdown, right? And the only food that you'll be surviving off of is the breakfast, lunch, and dinner that they deliver to your cell. And if you're living off of that, you're going to be starving. You're going to be hungry because they give you the 2,000 calories a day that they have to give you according to the law and no more. So if you just have to live off of the trays, you're going to be hungry inside of your cell. And if you run out of your own commissary or you don't have commissary or you're in between commissaries, you'll have that survival bag under your bed. Okay, so you'll be able to have snacks, you'll be able to have rice and food and cigarettes and coffee, and you'll be more comfortable than the next man in the next cell that didn't prepare like that. I also keep one of those bags under my bed if a guy comes into the prison that I know from another prison and he doesn't have his personal property yet, or it may take him 3 weeks or a month to get to commissary, and then I hit him off with that. And I have clean underwear and clean socks, brand new socks and underwear in the bag. This way I hit him off. And then when he does get his stuff, he gives it back and I make a new bag. So it's just important to keep an emergency survival bag under your bed. A lot of guys don't do that. Very important. A hot pot. You want to keep a hot pot. In the maximum security prisons, you're allowed to have a hot pot. Have a hot pot. They sell them in the commissary. This way, guys cook in their hot pot. You see, hot pot is really just to heat up water for your coffee or to make a soup in. But I take the bottom of the hot pot off and I remove the thermostat. And then when you do that, you can really boil water. So you can make rice in there. You can make pasta in there. Really good. So if you get caught up on that lockdown, right? You get caught up on that lockdown, you have your hot pot and you have your emergency survival bag in there, but everybody should have a hot pot anyway. This way you make your coffee in the morning when you wake up. You make a coffee at night when you're sitting up in bed reading a book. You know what I mean? You have to have a hot pot, so you always get a hot pot from the commissary. All right. Excuse me. Let me take a sip of my soda here. Besides this, you want to keep dental floss in your cell. They sell dental floss in a lot of the commissaries. If they don't sell dental floss in the commissary, the reason why you want dental floss is because it's to make a line, what they call fishing. You heard of what fishing in prison? Fishing is when you make a line. I use dental floss because dental floss is very strong, and then I tie a nail clipper to the end of the dental floss. And this way, when you're locked in your cell, either if it's at night or if it's on another one of those lockdowns, you can fish things from different cells. You take the nail clipper, put it under your cell, and you swing it, and you could send it down 1 cell, 2 cells, 5 cells, because you're going to know guys that are on the company with you. And you may run out of something, but your man has it 5, 10 cells away. Or your man may be 5, 10 cells away, your boy, and he's cooking and he wants to get you the bowl of food. So you send him a line, he ties the bowl of food and you pull it down the company, right? That's called fishing. I fished 60 cells away where I've sent the nail clipper down on the dental floss. I sent it 10 cells. Then that guy grabbed it, sent it down, and we got the line to where it had to go. And my man tied whatever I needed onto the line, and then you reel it back in. So dental floss is good for that. Besides cleaning your teeth, it's a good thing to have. Newports and Marlboros. Cigarettes are money in prison, right? I heard in the federal system they don't have smoking anymore, but in the state system they do have smoking, and it's good to keep some Newports and Marlboros in there because you want to trade. If you need something and somebody has something and you need it, they'll always trade it for the cigarettes. Newports, they like the Newports in there. The reason, because that's what most of the people smoke in there is Newports. But the Marlboros are good if you need something from the correctional officer, because most of them smoke Marlboros. You may want to get yourself an extra shower. You may want to go downstairs to a different company because your boy got something down there that you want. So you hit the officer off with a pack of Marlboros. Yo, here's a pack of Marlboro. It's in order to make moves. That's what it's called, making moves. You need Newports and Marlboros. So always keep a couple of packs in your locker and don't smoke them. I used to keep a lot of them, to be honest with you. I'd have 20, 30 packs of Newports in my cell, 10 packs of Marlboros in my cell, and I didn't smoke. And I had them in there at all times. That's what you use. So everything I mentioned so far is everything that you're allowed to have. You're permitted to have it. One of the other things that you should have, you're not permitted to have, but I always kept was a little cash. I used to go down on the visit and my people would visit me and I would get cash from them and sneak it back up into the prison, and I'd keep a couple of $50 bills and a couple of $100 bills. I had a lot of cash. I kept a lot of cash. Sometimes I have $600, $700 in cash, and I would hide it. Because cash is king, right? Cash is king in the free world. Cash is king in prison. You can get anything you want with it. The cash is really good if they're moving you to another prison and you get there and you don't have anything because your property didn't follow you yet. It may be stuck in the draft room on the bus, or they could even lose it on the draft when you're transferring from one. It's always good to have cash to get what you want, So, and there's places to hide it, tons of different places to hide it. Stamps. Stamps are always good. Stamps are money in prison. People trade things for stamps all the time. So that's another thing. That you go to commissary, you buy a book of stamps. It's always good to mail your letters. You know what I mean? Especially if they are putting you on the draft. If they come to you and say you're moving to another prison, you want to drop a few letters real quick, let people know that you're on the move, you have your stamps available, this, that. Another big one that I always had, and guys used to be like, "Yo, that's a great idea," because I didn't see many people do it. Is they sold net bags in the commissary, a regular net bag, like a laundry bag, a net bag. I would have 15 net bags. You said, "What do you need 15 net bags for?" Because I would keep my stuff very organized, especially if they were moving me from one prison to another. When you're doing a lot of time, you move. I moved 7 times in 17 years. I spent 6 years in this prison, 7 years in that prison, 2 years in this prison, 5 years in that prison. That's the way New York does it. They bounce you around, right? And every time I would move, I would put my books in a net bag. I will put my legal work in another net bag. I put my food in another net bag. I put my clothes in another net bag. But you'd be amazed at how much stuff you gather. I put my commissary in a net bag, and then I put those net bags inside the draft bags that you're going to move with. This way, all my stuff didn't get messed up. All my stuff was secure inside of the net bag. And then when other guys got to the other prison, their stuff was all busted up and messed up because guys are throwing their stuff on the bus, and so the net bags were always nice to have. And then when you go to the yard to shower, you throw it, or you're going to work out, or you're going to the gym, guys are allowed to carry a net bag. So I ended up having 10, 15 net bags. And every time I moved, it was much more convenient. So I gathered up the net bags. Earplugs. You got to have earplugs. If you're in a maximum security prison system, you're going to hear guys talking all night. You're going to hear guys playing chess through their cell. You're going to hear guys playing music, playing musical instruments. There's never really peace and quiet. You have some nights where everyone shuts the hell up and you can get some sleep. But it may be even during the middle of the day, you're in your cell and you're trying to take a nap. Now, earplugs are very hard to get in prison. I don't think you're allowed to get them through the package room, but they have workshops in the prison, like metal shop and different programs where in the metal shop they had earplugs. So I would tell the guys in the metal shop, "Yo, here's a pack of cigarettes. Bring me back 20 pairs of earplugs from your job," and I keep the earplugs. I didn't love the earplugs because in prison you want to hear everything that's going on around you. Very important. But at night when I was locked in my cell, it wasn't, and I was ready for sleep. It wasn't really that important to hear everything around me. And so I would put a pair of earplugs in. And when I didn't have earplugs, I made them out of tissue paper. I took some toilet paper. I would ball up a little piece, then wrap another piece around it and fit it inside of my ears. This way I can get some sleep, some peace and quiet in there. You have to have your television. In a lot of maximum security prison systems, you're allowed to purchase a television from the commissary. Back then when I was in there, it was like $120 for a TV, and you want to have a television in your cell. If you have a choice to have one or not have one, who wouldn't want to have a TV in their cell for all those rainy nights that you don't want to go outside into the recreational yard, for all the times that you're locked in the cell and they stop movement, for all the times that you're stressed out and you're depressed and you're sitting in your cell, for those nights you can't sleep at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and you're just sitting on the edge of your bed, you'll have a television to turn on. You know, television. I was in prison when TVs came out. When I first went into prison, nobody had a television in their cell. Okay. The only way to watch television was outside in the recreational yard. And guys would go out in the rain in the middle of winter to huddle around a television and watch some sports or watch a show. And then all of a sudden they brought TVs into the prison system. They made a deal that if you were going to vote for the television to have a television inside of your cell, then that would limit the amount of packages you were able to get through the mail. That was the deal that the prison was making with the prisoners. And so I bought a TV right away. I was up in Attica when it came out. And back then they only had 10-inch black and white televisions. Now they have color televisions. And it was these clear televisions. The whole case was clear. So when they came to search your cell, they could look in the back of the television. You couldn't hide anything inside of it. It was made of clear plastic so you could see all the electronics in the back. But if you can have a television, get a television. Same thing with a radio. Now they have, technology picked up. Now they have these iPads or whatever they have inside of prison. They're allowed to have iPads. They're allowed to send emails. They're allowed to listen to music on their iPad. None of that existed when I was in prison. There was none of that. There was no iPads. There was no way to email anyone. Our only communication was snail mail or making a telephone call. But these days, they're allowed to have those tablets. I believe everyone is issued a tablet. So the tablet would definitely help with as far as music and stuff like that. Money in your commissary. Oh, you have to have money in your commissary. There are guys that don't have any money. They live off the state money. Whatever job they have in the prison system, they may make $12 every 2 weeks. Some guys make decent money, $80 every 2 weeks. It depends what their job is, but whatever your job is, keep some money in your commissary. Commissary makes a big, big difference in prison. And it makes a big difference in you being miserable because you don't have anything. Sitting in prison is bad enough. Sitting in prison stresses you out. Sitting in prison causes a lot of anxiety. But sitting in your cell with nothing makes it 10 times worse. I like to sit in my cell. If I want a cup of coffee, I can make a cup of coffee. If I want to make a pasta meal with sausage and rice or anything, I have it in my cell. If I want a Three Musketeers bar, if I want some chocolate, if I want this, I have it because I had money in my commissary. And in New York, you go to commissary every 2 weeks. And you're allowed to spend $55 on food. I'm sure the price went up by now. You're allowed to spend $55 on food, and then that was not including your cosmetics. And the food and cosmetics was included, and then you could buy stamps separately, and you could buy cigarettes separately. So I would spend $150 every 2 weeks. You know what I mean, and just bring stuff in my cell. This way, when I was in there, those little things make a big difference. They do. They make a big difference. Um, your phone number to your family. Give your phone number to your family, to someone in there, one of the other prisoners. Now you'd be like, that's crazy. I'm not giving my phone number to another prisoner. You're gonna have guys that you get close with, that are your boys, that you hang out with all the time. You're going to have guys that you trust in there. You're going to meet them, and you give him the phone number of someone in your family or someone that you would want him to call in an emergency. You know what I mean? And you say to him, if anything happens to me, call this number and let them know what happened to me, because the prison might not call. You follow what I'm saying? You can get into a beef with a correctional officer. Maybe they catch you with some contraband. They're taking you to solitary confinement. Maybe you get into a physical altercation with another prisoner. They take you to solitary confinement. Maybe the officer's getting ready to set you up because he doesn't like you. You want another prisoner to have the phone number to someone that you would like call in case of an emergency, because the prison won't call. Okay, and so that's important that someone has the phone number, and you sit down with them. You tell them, listen, if anything ever happens to me, please call them, let them know, to call the facility, whatever it may be. An extra ID card is always good to keep. You have your prison identification card that you carry with you everywhere, and you need that to move around the prison. You need it to go to the yard. You need it to go to commissary. You need it to go to the infirmary. You need it to go to a visit. You need it to use the phone in some places. So keep an extra ID card. What I used to do is just tell them I lost my ID card. They would send me to the ID room. You pay $5 for a new ID card. Now I had two ID cards. I would hide one inside of a book or inside of my legal work. You know what I mean? And then I had my extra one. If they ever found the extra one in a cell search, I'd be like, oh, I lost it. I've been looking for that for a year. That's why I had to go get another one. It's no big deal. An extra ID card isn't a big deal if you get caught with it, but it's important to have. You know, um, a hidden weapon is not a bad idea. You know, um, I wouldn't say to hide the weapon inside of your cell, because they do a lot of routine cell searches or they do cell searches if they think you may have contraband. They do cell searches when they do facility searches, when they search the whole facility. Your cell is going to be searched. Constantly when you're doing prison time. They may come once a month. They may come two times in 1 week. They may come every couple of months, but they're going to search your cell. And if you get caught with a weapon, you're going straight to solitary confinement, and they may even give you a new charge, possession of a weapon, and take you outside of the prison, put you in front of the judge in the local town, charge you with possession of a weapon, and give you an additional sentence. I've seen it so many times it'll make your head spin, but you do want to have some type of weapon to protect yourself. You know what I mean? Because you never know what's going to happen. You'll never know if you may not be the one that caused the problem. Someone may have a problem with you. Someone may be trying to do, you just never know. So you get your hands on a weapon, you make a weapon, but you hide it somewhere outside of yourself and you don't tell anyone. Don't tell your closest boy in there. Don't tell your best friend. Don't talk about it on the phone because all the phone calls are recorded. Just make yourself a little weapon and hide it somewhere in the recreational yard. Hide it somewhere in a slop sink. Hide it somewhere where you think it's not going to be found. You know what I mean? And check on it once in a while. This way you have access to it. I know plenty of guys that went through maximum security prison and never needed a weapon. Plenty of them. But it's not a bad thing to have. You know, and those are some of the things that'll make your life more comfortable in prison. Those are some of the things that are necessities. Those are some of the things that you can't live without, or you don't want to live without if you're stuck in the prison system. I hope the video was a little bit informative. If you have any questions, ask me in the comments, and I will be making another video soon, guys. All right? I'm sure I left some stuff out, but maybe I'll make another one. Maybe I'll make another one in soon time. Take care. Peace.